Hello and welcome to the next video in our standards-based grading tutorial. In this video, we are going to calculate averages for each standard, and we are going to calculate, we're going to do that for both at the student level, and we'll do that across the class. First, I want to make it so I can see my full spreadsheet all at one time. Now, right now, the width of all of these columns is making it so I can't really see everything. So let's see, these first few columns with the timestamp and the score, I'm going to make those very small. And then I'm going to click on column C, and I'm going to scroll over to the end of the clean data. So I'm going to go all the way over to Z. I'm going to hold down the Shift key and then click on the letter Z. You'll notice that now I've selected column Z through C. Now if I adjust any one of these columns, the width, it will adjust all of them to the same width. So I'm going to just pull, whoops, there's a little line that comes up, that black arrow, and I'm going to adjust that so now everything fits. So now I can see that I have blue, orange, and purple. Now I've chosen to use those highlighting colors so that I could see each standard. So SP3 is blue. If I click on the top of one of those, you'll notice the standard is SP3. The orange ones, those are SP4, and then the purple ones, finally, are SP5. Email address, don't really need that here, and you'll notice that Dr. Pontich and I, we took all of these quizzes, so we had some data. We're going to mainly be concerned with these first names that I've pasted here to look at those students. Now, the next columns I would like to have, let's calculate an average for SP3. So I'm going to say, and it's officially grade 6 math standard, SP statistics and probability, and then it's 3. And I'm going to say AVG to stand for average. Now, to calculate an average, we're going to use a formula in Sheets. We'll do that by hitting the equal sign, and you'll notice it knows me pretty well. It's trying to predict that I want an average of columns I through J2. Now, that's not exactly right, so I'm not going to just click on Enter to select that. So I'm going to continue typing average, and I want to select average without the letters in there. I just want this average one. Alternatively, you could type that all out yourself, and notice that there is an open parentheses there. Now I want to calculate the average of four values, and that starts with this blue one, question number 1, and I'm going to separate these with a comma. So that's D2, comma, F2, comma, H2, comma, and finally J2. Then I'm going to close the parentheses and hit Enter. So right now I can see that the average for that standard for Despina is 50%, or 0.5. And I can then go right here, and if I click on that box and I click on this square in the lower right hand corner, that's the fill command, and I can drag that down, and now we have all of the averages for each of those students. I'm going to just shrink this column a bit because I want to make some room so I can put in 2 more columns. Okay, so now this next one is going to be 6th grade math standard statistics and probability, number 4. Okay, and I'm just going to say AVG. Once again, I'm going to hit equals, average, and I'm not taking that auto select. I do not want those I2 through J2 because that would take everything in between those two. I'm going to do average, and I'm going to manually tell it once again. So this one's going to be L2, comma, N2, comma, P2, comma, R2, close parentheses. There's my average. Once again, I'll use that fill command to go all the way down. Let's make this smaller. So now we have our standard 3, standard 4. Finally, we're going to do our 6th grade math standard 6, statistics and probability, standard 5. Oh, and I wanted to call that average. Or AVG, as before. Okay, equals average, and this time it's going to be T2, comma, V2, comma, X2, comma, Z2. Okay, let's fill that down the column. Okay, now I'm going to adjust that. So now I have the 3 sets of averages and a standard for each child. Now we want to do something else here. I'd like us to use something that's called conditional formatting. So I'm going to highlight these 3 columns. And what this will allow us to do is to highlight to show us where these grades are. So let's go to format, conditional formatting. And there are 2 options here, color scale or single color. We're going to use this single color, and we're going to create some thresholds. So the first threshold we'll do is if the child is proficient at this standard. So I'm going to say greater than or equal to, and this might vary by school district, but we're going to say 80% or 0.8 is proficient. Now that's our first rule. Now we're going to add a second rule. So green was for the first one, and that automatically defaulted to green. And we'll go back and check that in a minute. But the next one we want to do is between. So since the first one was 0.8, we're going to make this one 0.79, and it's going to go all the way down to 0.6. And what we're going to do is this is going to be the emerging proficient. So maybe they're getting close to passing. Now, this depends on your school or school district. So for this one, instead of being green, we're going to make this one light orange because they're close, but they're not passing. Then I'm going to add one more rule, and this time is going to be the lowest one. So we're going to say less than or equal to, and this time is going to be 0.59. So if you're at 0.59, we're going to mark that as red. Okay? And if I click done, you'll notice that we have 3 thresholds. And this shows us our rule here. So if it's greater than or equal to 0.8, they're green. If it's between 0.79 and 0.6, that would be orange. So approaching passing. And red is anything below 0.6 or 60%. So that those students are well below passing at this point. Now if I scroll over, I can scroll over and still keep those rules up there. You'll notice that I might have a child like Kimberly who is proficient in both 3 and 4, but then needs a little more work in this second area. And then we can look at a student like Tim. This is 0 in all of them. And you can see in Tim that I happen to take that one on purpose. So I skipped a bunch of questions. And so Tim did not get any right. Now, one little thing that I just noticed in my data that's not tidy, you'll notice that there's some dollars over here. Now, the formulas don't appear to be caring too much about that, but this is not right. And the reason this happened is because we inserted a column to the right of these dollar values. So Google's automatically formatting that as a dollar value. So let's fix that. Let's go to Format, Number, and I'm going to change that to a number. And you'll notice it will have decimal places. I can reduce those decimal places with this button right here next to the percent symbol. Okay. And there we go. So now we have our format. So we know how individual students are doing. Now, it might be nice to know how the whole class is doing by these standards. So one thing we have to do is we have to turn off our filter. I can see that I've filtered the whole entire sheet here because this green goes all the way down. And in order to find out just for the class, I need to change that filter a little bit. So I'm going to turn off this filter, and I'm going to create a new filter where I select the top left corner, and then I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to build in maybe a little extra space. I'm going to go to the bottom right corner. I'm going to hold the Shift button. You'll notice that it's highlighted all of that. And then I'm going to turn on the filter again. And here now the difference is that now that green line does not extend past row 15. So then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to leave a row empty because if I type something right under the filter, it will pull it into the filter. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to type class averages. Okay, enter. And then I'm going to, just like before, I'm going to calculate a formula again. I'm going to say is equal to, and now this time the suggestion is actually working well because all of these are right in a row with each other. But just in case, I'm going to type it out. I'm going to type out average, and I'm going to click and drag from the top to the bottom. Then I'm going to close parentheses. So I see average of AC2 through AC13. Okay, that looks good. And then I'm going to fill this across, and that should be the same. Now, this is something that's very interesting now. We did this data kind of randomly, but you'll notice that our students are struggling most with SP4. So after I administer this assessment, I'm going to make sure to go back and reteach all the content that has to do with SP4. Now, some other tidying things, we can reduce the decimal places here too, as well. So maybe I just want to go to 2 decimal places. Alternatively, I could change these all into percents. If I highlight all of them and click the percent button, that would show us as percents, and we can once again reduce those decimal places. And now, I guess the last thing I can do is I want to show how we can also sort. So I can grab these little handles that look like a little upside down tree, and I can go maybe highest to lowest. So maybe, and that's kind of interesting the way this data shook out, but by looking at everyone in this area right here, I might have some small group work that I do to really intensely intervene here with them. Looks like the whole entire class we need to work more on SP4, but we have to work on all the standards with Despina, Dimitra, Marika, Margaret, Tim, and Wei. That concludes this video. Thank you for bearing with me for such a long video. I'll see you next time.